Well, good morning. Well, this morning, I want to talk about blight and what some things you can do to prevent it. Okay. Now, blight is airborne. It just comes in on the wind, and uh, but if there's certain conditions present for it to be able to light and be able to do good, it will. And so today I'm kind of trying to prevent a couple of those situations. One of them, I'm going to tell you right off, potatoes and tomatoes both tend to get blight. Now, the situations that cause blight to really be able to take hold and do well is if there's a lot of moisture and the plants are wet, moist, and they're not drying off good in between rains. So one thing you can do is don't overpopulate them. If you've got them in a little bit, give it enough room between tomato plants and stuff that once it rains, it'll quickly air dry. Those leaves will be dry again. And another situation that helps it to not do well is when you have leaves that are damaged and diseased. In other words, a lot of times as you go through the year, your tomato plants, the lower leaves will start to get sad looking and yellowed. Okay? Now if you have that situation, and at the same time, you have them a little crowded, that's something that really helps blight take hold. So what I do is, when I start getting blooms, and I've got some blooms on this one, when the tomatoes start to form, and I doubt if you can see it, it's a little ways behind me here. When I start getting tomatoes forming, I'll take off all the lower leaves. I try not to keep lower leaves that touch the ground, because that's a good situation for blight. Okay, and that's just the things that you can do to make it better. Another thing is potatoes. Now, I grow potatoes and tomatoes, and generally peppers, eggplant, anything like that is a nightshade family plant, and they all get blight. They all could potentially get blight. So I try to keep that all in the same bed. And the reason being, yes, it's airborne. It comes in on the breeze, and if there's blight within, 40 miles probably, you can get it. But once you get it on your plants, then it's in that soil in that bed. Not in the rest of your garden, but right where that plant is, it's going to be in the soil. Now, I want to rotate. Next year, these plants will be in this bed on my right, where my onions and stuff are now. Okay? So if by chance I get a little blight late in the season, next spring, they're over here in clean ground where there's no blight. And then they'll rotate, and the next 2 years they'll be in the two back beds. First one and then the second one the next year. Then it'll be the next year after that that they'll be back to this bed. And in that amount of time, the blight's gone. You're okay again. No problems. Now, one thing I have noticed that does happen, and I think it might be why some people tell you not to plant them in the same bed, is potatoes. When they get to the end of their production cycle, they start getting sick, getting yellowed, getting pitiful looking. They'll flop over, And I have had the situation happen, and they might be picking up a little blight at that point. You really can't tell because the plant's dying anyway. So, it looks sick, but it's supposed to look sick. It's that time of year. So what I'm going to do is this. I've put a little bit of a fence around my potato plants, okay? Now the reason for that being, when they start to piddle out and they start to flop over, there's still going to be a little space in between my tomatoes and where they are. By the time that happens, this tomato will be big and tall and all the lower leaves will be gone. So adding just a little string to catch them, to keep them from flopping over and being on the tomato vine, is enough. Now, in my area, yeah, I'm in zone 6 and I'm in the middle of the country. I'm in Kansas. We get blight, but it's not like it's something that happens every year. It really doesn't. It's one of those things that'll happen to you once in a while and you have to be aware of it. You know, and like I say, giving plants enough spacing and so on, and rotation and all will help us to keep track of it and keep it out, you know, where we don't have a problem. But some parts of the country, you know, it happens every year. You just know it's going to happen. Same way with some of the mold type fungus diseases, that make leaf spot. I can't think right now the name of the darn thing, but sometimes those things, it's an every year and you know it's coming. You know, you just know it's got powdery mildew. That's what I was thinking of. Well, if I'm in one of those states, what I'm going to do, if that's how it is in my area, I'm going to pick me out a decent product to control that stuff. I'm going to make note so that I know when that shows up. Does it show up 1st of July? Does it show up 1st of May or the middle of May or June? I'm going to figure out what time every year that shows up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 3 or 4 weeks back from that time, and I'm going to start treating my plants. I'm going to start making sure just every week or two that I give them a little light spray of whatever I'm going to use to control fungus, so that they just don't get it. When it sweeps through your area, you're okay. Well, all right. That's in general a little quick trying to prevent blight from happening. It's early yet for me for that. You know, we don't get early blight ever. But that's just a couple of scenarios and a couple of things that you can do to reduce it or keep from getting it. So that's about all. I hope you have a quality day. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it. Share if you want to share our videos. And you have a good one.